Paulie and I were talking about this recently, that we went 2 months without any live sports. And this is 3 hours that I'm doing a show.
Yeah.
You're doing a highlight show. So you kind of build in highlights in a highlight show. At what point did a light go on and say, this is let's pivot and we can still do this every single night?
I don't want to be I just don't want to be dramatic about it because there were people doing far more important work. We all understand this. I just say that for someone whose job it is to do an hour-long show about the night sports and the highlights, and there are none, it was mentally just, you got to a point where it was just like, what are we going to do? And let's remember the direction of the conversation at the time, Dan. We had the George Floyd murder in Minnesota. We had the Bubba Wallace incident in Talladega, which, people, what was that? It was simply just an innocuous thing that happened to be in his stall, whatever the case might have been. But remember the tenor of the conversation in our country, and a lot of that occupied our time. And there's a segment of our population that always wants you to stick to sports. And I remember thinking, I'd happily stick to sports. I'd love for you to tell me what they are, because I'm fresh out of sports over here. And we creatively came up with some stuff. I remember thinking, and it's interesting, our president, Jimmy Pitaro, had a very similar idea, and we all kind of lumped it together. Just how do we honor people whose seasons ended? Because there were so many athletes across the country that were on the cusp. Think of where we are right now. You're ready to crown a champion in some sport. Maybe it's hockey, maybe it's basketball or whatever. And we came up with the concept of senior night, and that became, it benefited them maybe, but it certainly benefited us. We needed content. And it was really cool to find out that meant things to people around the country. We were really, really, proud that we were able to honor them appropriately. And then we had Last Dance, and we turned the Last Dance into content. And salute to our group. Salute to my guy, Jason McCallum, is one of our producers on the show. He went back through the Bulls season and found bad beats from the Bulls 1996 season, and we're showing bad beats. And I remember people thinking, oh my God, because you imagine being some poor guy that was on the wrong end of a beat, however many years ago, and now you're reliving it again, thinking, yeah, I had the Jazz that night or whatever. But I think we talked to Jeff Passan like 42 times. We talked to Adrian Wojnarowski probably the same, because it was some version every day, Dan, you remember it, of the same thing. Hey, what do we think they're going to do? What's the bubble going to look like? When might they compete? What are the protocols going to be? It was just, you did it 3 times more than I did, 3 hours more a day. I just wonder this, did you just feel like, I don't know that I can continue to do this? Like, did you feel like your brain was in a knot at times?
It was strange coming in. You don't have any choice. You have to do it. But I remember it takes me about 12 minutes to get to work. And it felt like those 12 minutes I would dread, because I was like, I don't know how to do this. Now, and look, we have it great. And I don't mean to diminish anything. This is just our vacuum, my world, trying to entertain this audience. And I'd come into Paulie and I'd go, what do you got? Right. And I never relied on, I don't think we relied on each other so much over that 2-month span, because I said, we still have to do it. We may be, whining and moaning, but we got to do it. We're a diversion for people around the country. I don't care what it is, we got to do it. And, our ratings went up. Our audience grew with no sports, because I think our approach was a smart approach. But, we were all in it together, and I said to the audience, I don't have answers.
No.
But we're trying, and we'll be here every single day for you. But I just remember, I don't know if I've ever had a challenge like that, where you did have Tom Brady. That was a great story. Like, we had pockets where you're going, oh, let's grab onto that. And you would hold on to that life raft a little bit longer because you didn't have anything else to talk about. Sure. And you made something that maybe was not as big, a little bit bigger as a result. But it was, I'll look back on that as one of the proudest moments I've ever had with this show. And you'll probably, I'm going to guess, look back on what you guys did 2 years ago, the start of 2 years ago with your team.
Without a doubt, Dan. I think what it speaks to, and you certainly have this, is a relationship with the audience. And when the audience knows you, and they know you sort of, they know your voice, they know what you stand for, they know who you are, they know you're not going to try to BS them. And when you're just trying to get through all of it together, and you recognize that what you are, and we got wonderful notes from people that you represent this thing. You're some light that's on, and it's comfortable. And I'm thinking, I'm glad it's comfortable for you, because I'm over here like I'm a one-man band playing a kazoo and banging on the drums like a chimpanzee. I'm just trying to make noise for the hour. But yes, I mean, certainly the senior night stuff. It felt great to be able to give somebody something. Just, I see you, I acknowledge your team, and we know you almost did something awesome, and it got taken. No one's fault, right? But what's incredible right now, 2 years later, last week I was down in Durham for Carolina Duke, and you're in the building for that last game. And more than anything, I was just struck by what 9,400 people sound like, what it feels like, the energy, the shared experience. And then this sport, what sport provides. Like, Duke was there for a party, and Carolina was not there for a party, man. They were there to win, and they did. And all of just coming home from that, I was just moved by the shared experience, the sound of it, the feeling of it, and then the theater of what sports, and only sports, are. And I know you and I both, we've talked about this, just how fortunate we feel to do what we do, and to catalog this, and to get to know the people that do it. And then just to watch the games. And God, without the fans there, which, credit to all the sports that came back, because watching sports help, but fans make sports what they are. They really do. And years from now, when we look back on that year, the NFL played games with nobody. It's just so odd. It's so jarring. And then it became jarring when we saw people there again. You had to reacquaint yourself with what all that felt like. So it's, I don't know, man, it's wild. In some ways, it feels like it was 100 years ago. And in the midst of it, it felt like it would never end. It was just this quicksand that you just were trying to keep your head and keep your mind afloat. And I don't know, was it an honor? I don't know. It's just what we are lucky enough to do. But I was proud of what we tried to do then, just like the same thing that you're going to fill 3 great hours today and every day. That's what you do. And that's what we try to do.